Welcome to the HMO Property Show, by investors for investors. Brought to you by the HMO Property Co, Australia's leaders in impact investing. Investments made with the intention to generate a measurable, beneficial social or environmental impact alongside a positive financial return. Catch us weekly as we discuss all things cash flow positive property investing.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the HMO Property Show, and this week I have the most beautiful woman on the planet joining me in the podcast booth. It's my amazing wife, Mrs. Jo Gibb.
Thank you for that.
Welcome back into the podcast booth. We've recorded one previously, haven't we?
Yes.
On my other podcast.
For sure.
But this one is going to be more around the JNG Property Group and not high level. We're really going to dig into the nuts and bolts and try and answer all of the FAQs, or frequently asked questions, that we get when we onboard clients. So do you want to give us a little bit about JNG Property Group? How long has it been in operation? How many rooms are you looking after? And what's the target?
So we've been in operation since 2017. Started off as a very small team of 2 or 3. Now we're a team of 15 in the property management side of the business, and we manage about 470 rooms it is now. So started off small, but we rapidly, year by year, growing.
Everything starts with one small step, doesn't it? If you're listening to this podcast now and you're considering investing in your first property, a property portfolio is built starting with one property. So like, if you're at the start of that journey, don't worry, we have been at the start of that journey with our own portfolio, with our own business. Everything starts somewhere. So welcome on board, welcome to your journey, and I hope it's a good one. So we've got 15 people in the team.
Yes.
Wow, so we must spread around and cover some big areas then.
Yeah, so we operate as far north currently as Butler, and as far south as Secret Harbour, and then as far east as, say, Forest Field, and west as Fremantle. So a large area. So we do have property managers that look after a certain portfolio in the southern part of WA, the northern part, so that we can limit the amount of travel time required as well, even though we are based as a team in South Perth.
Yeah. And what's the big goal for JNG Property Group? How many rooms do we want to have under management? 10,000
rooms by 2031.
Wow. With 10,000 rooms, will that saturate the market?
Absolutely not. I don't think it'll touch the side still. The conversations that we've been having with different organisations, we know there's such a need for this. So we are, we're really actually excited to be able to bring that amount of rooms to the market.
Yeah. And we've also got plans to sort of spread down into the southwest, Margaret River, Dunsborough, Bustleton, because we'll have to set up a little office down there, won't we?
Well, I think I might try and head that one up too.
Beautiful little knuckle
but
of the world.
we have tested that area, so I think that it's really important to mention that we're in all these suburbs because we've tested these areas to make sure there's demand for them. And the reason why we want to get down to the southwest is because when we tested that market, it was
hot.
Hot.
I just want to also touch on the 10,000 room things again, because people might think that's a lot of rooms. But there's property managers in one suburb that have 1,000 properties on their rent roll. For instance, like Morley. I know for a fact there's a real estate agent in that area that's got 1,000 properties on that rent roll. That's just one suburb. We're talking about spreading from Margaret River to, Butler, nearly Geraldton, and I'm only putting 10,000 rooms in there. I think we could really put 50,000 rooms in there, and we still wouldn't even touch the sides because the demand is just huge, isn't it?
And I think we've just seen that the more that we've grown, the more that the demand is there. We're forever getting phone calls off people. Are you in these areas? Can you help us find some accommodation in these areas? So the growth for this professional share housing co-living concept across Europe, the States, is massive. So you just know there's so much opportunity here in WA.
Yeah. And what do councils say about this type of housing?
Councils can be tricky because they've got this stereotypical share house thought process, I guess.
Student digs
and dodgy landlords. So that's not just with councils. A lot of people, investors, can be nervous about that as well. Think, oh, is that what I'm going to get? Or even the potential tenants, they don't really want to go into this accommodation thinking it's going to be dodgy. And that's why, because it's a professional service, we've been able to change people's thought process around that. So with the councils in particular, yes, we've come across them having a little bit of pushback, but when we've spoken to them about our management plans, noise plans, everything that they're worried about, parking, noise,
safety,
they can see that we've got things in place, and then they welcome them.
I remember the first conversation I had with a specific council, back when we started this 2016-17, and I told them about the fire safety upgrades we do to the property, and you could just see like the defence sort of drop, because they were like, these guys they actually care about the people that they put in these houses. They're not slumlords. They're not just trying to get as many people in as possible. They're spending thousands of dollars on a fire and safety upgrade so that if there's a fire in the house, everybody knows to evacuate, and they know where to evacuate to.
And I think that's also important, because as a business, we do stand firm on the service that we provide. So if an investor comes to us and says, can you manage my property as a professional share house? We will not manage it without certain things in control, because at the end of the day, we've done a lot to build this brand and this reputation of this type of living in WA. We do not want it ruined by people who don't want to do it properly, because that's what we've been battling with at the moment, trying to really get rid of those stereotypes of landlords putting 20 people in a house, causing chaos, very unsafe and unhealthy, as well as tenants getting ripped off, not getting bonds back, etc. So yeah, we stick by the rules, but we enforce them quite hard.
Let's talk about tenants. What's the selection process for tenants? In fact, where do we get the tenants from?
So I feel like this is so important. When we started out and we were looking at realestate.com ads, etc., we soon realised that that's not where the tenants are. So I like to say that we fish where the fish are swimming, and it's not necessarily on the real estate platforms. It's Facebook, it's Flatmates, it's even sometimes Gumtree. So it's depending on the location. We know the profile of a certain tenant might be, more Facebook orientated, or potentially more for Gumtree. So we actually work across, we advertise on all them platforms. We've got a website. We do paid advertising to my sound just went a bit funny there. So I just got a bit off. So we do paid advertising to get people to our website as well. And word of mouth for the last probably 12 to 18 months has been huge. So recommendations from other housemates to get their peers, friends, etc. into this accommodation.
And how do you vet the tenants? What's the selection process?
So we let anybody come to view, and we make sure that they're not, a couple if it's only for single occupancy, or they haven't got a pet if we can't have a pet in there. But the main thing is, once they've come to view, we get them to fill in an application form. But what I like to say is the property managers, the team that we've got, which we kind of call people managers rather than property managers.
Yeah, people managers and community managers.
Yes, absolutely. So they really just get a sense. So I always say go with your intuition, because they'll talk to the prospective tenant, ask them a bit about them, really get some vibes from them to see if they think that they are going to be suitable for this house. Once they're put in an application form, it's kind of a standard application process. So we'll do reference checks on them. We'll call their work to make sure they're employed. We'll make sure we get pay slips from them. We'll make sure we have a reference for them professionally and personally, and make sure that they can afford the accommodation.
Any Facebook stalking goes on?
Oh, yes. That was one of my favourites. I can't believe I missed that one. Yes, absolutely. So doing a little bit of social media stalking goes down wonders, because you might have somebody that says to you, I don't drink, I don't have a pet, I don't smoke, whatever it might be. And if their profile picture is them holding a dog with a fag in their mouth and a bottle of beer, you kind of know they're probably not honest. So Facebook or social media stalking is definitely a good way of
Yeah, 100%.
telling them.
If a landlord wants to select the tenants, can they select the tenants to live in this house?
No, unfortunately not. So
Why not?
what we say is, look, you put your trust in us as property managers and people managers to understand that there's a set harmony that we want in this house. So if we understand everybody's personality, so you're going to have 5 or 6 people, so up to 6 people in a property, who are all unrelated, and they might come from different backgrounds, cultures, race, sex, etc. So we really believe that we understand the needs for that house better than anyone on the external, because we're in the trenches and we're dealing with them personalities on a day-to-day. So if an investor wanted to select people that haven't got that insight as to the types of people that are already there, or how they've been engaging with us, the types of these people open up to us, they've got different things going on in their lives. So we find that it's much quicker process and better if we take control of that. We just want a happy house. It makes our lives easier. It makes them stay longer. Cash flow continues.
Well, a happy house is a cash flow positive house, we say, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
And this is the reason that investors are investing in this style of accommodation. You touched on a happy house, tenants stay longer. What's the average tenure right now for your tenants in these rooms?
I would say average is 12 months. We have a minimum of 6 months to start with, and we always let people roll on from 6 months. So they'll sign a new agreement each time. We go in with minimum of 6, or maximum of 6, I should say. It's both minimum and maximum. We want to make sure that they are the right fit. We want to make sure that we don't like evicting people if we don't have to. So if at the end of their 6 months we think, you know what, you've come to your time here, we'll move you on to somewhere else that might be more suitable. But after 6 months, they can stay for as long as they like. We have had people up to 3 to 4 years that stayed in these properties.
And who are these people?
Everybody. We've got everyone from 18-year-olds to 73-year-olds living in these properties. Wow. And with a scale of, in the house where a 73-year-old might be, there might be a 23-year-old at the same time. And we love this mix.
Sounds weird though. Why would an old person want to live with a young person? Wouldn't that cause issues?
Well, the oldies, they're not old, are they? Nobody wants to believe that. I mean,
True.
Yeah, the guys in the office, I feel like I'm their age, but really I could be their mother. So for the older generation, to be around youth is really good for the soul. It's really good for their connectivity, their growth, their just their social skills that can keep growing. Because I feel like if you're not growing,
you're dying,
unfortunately. And for the youngsters, we have had people say, "Oh no, is that older guy going to move in with us?" When they do, the dynamic is just awesome. The stories that the older generation can bring, they become almost like a parent of the house. You see the younger ones going up to them, getting advice, might be girlfriend advice or whatever it might be. And it's absolutely awesome. We have, when you have a property that have got a good mix of different generations, we find it lasts longer. If you've got a house full of all 20-year-olds, party house. You know, or you might get people arguing with each other because they're all kind of in the same direction but got different viewpoints, whatever it might be. But you have a good mix of generations. There's a solid kind of more community feel to it rather than a gang or a group. Yeah,
and this style of accommodation is around building communities as well, which is why we said our property managers are also people managers and community managers as well. And we've got some really big plans for this business moving forward around community and the things that, you know, every time I speak to you, we've got all these other new ideas going. Like, I want to do this and I want to do this. And one of the values of the business is we constantly evolve and innovate because we want to constantly improve the not just the service we offer for our clients, the landlords, but also the experience for the tenants as well. Don't we? Really want to make this incredible.
For the people who work with us. So I had a gorgeous message yesterday from one of the property managers to just say, "Joe, I absolutely love being part of this team. I was able to house a couple in a house that were really struggling to find somewhere. For me to be able to give them that opportunity, it was really rewarding for her." So things like that we want it to be a win-win for everybody. We're doing this for a good purpose across investors, team, housemates. We don't want to be in business for it to be shit.
Exactly. We want it to be a win-win situation.
Win-win-win.
And we are extremely blessed and grateful that we're in the position now where we've got a business that we call it the double-edged feather instead of the double-edged sword, because everybody wins. It's like tenants get clean, safe, affordable accommodation, and investors get the returns that they deserve for investing in real estate. It's just a phenomenal outcome. And we're really grateful that we're on this journey with so many of our investors and tenants.
Absolutely.
I just want to touch on the tenancy laws in Western Australia as well, because the Residential Tenancy Act is under review, and there's potentially some new things, we'll call them, coming into the Residential Tenancy Act. One of them is no grounds termination, which means that you cannot terminate somebody without a reason. And the second one is a tenant can make substantial alterations to a property without the owner's consent, which essentially means your tenant can then knock a wall down in your house and doesn't really need to tell you. How will that affect JNG Property Group moving forward?
So as it stands at the moment, it won't affect us. What we found when we first started out this business was the Residential Tenancy Act isn't geared towards this style of accommodation. So there's some states, and obviously in different countries, they've actually got policies in place or legislations in place for this type of housing. In WA, there isn't, and therefore we've come away from the Residential Tenancy Act and we operate on more of an occupancy agreement term, which is governed by common law. So the reason why we did that was, obviously in a house of 5 to 6 people who are unrelated, if somebody, which this can happen because people's circumstances can change,
constantly,
and may spiral out of control. They might have had a few different issues that have happened. They might start drinking and they might start becoming a little bit aggressive in the house. We cannot have somebody in the house who is violent or aggressive, because obviously we've got other people to think about. Under the Residential Tenancy Act, we cannot remove that person. So you have to give them 14 days to rectify their behaviour. We don't have 14 days.
It's geared so heavily towards the tenant, isn't it?
Absolutely. So these occupancy agreements that we have that are governed by, in our terms, they're governed by our house rules that we put in place. And anyone who steps outside of them house rules will be breached, evicted over a longer space of time, or immediately evicted. So depending on the level of the issue and concern. So as I said earlier, we don't just like to get rid of people. No. We're very much about...
We're here to house them.
We're here to house them and help them as much as we can. However, if they are of danger in that house, we need to be able to move them on quickly. So we operate outside of the residential tenancy.
And that also, our agreement ties into some house rules as well, doesn't it? How many house rules have we got at the minute?
You've thrown me in that, because I think I keep adding to that.
Yeah, it keeps growing. So there's essentially...
Probably about 50.
There's essentially a heap of house rules that every tenant that rents a room from us reads, and also signs to agree to them house rules.
Yes, it's part of the contract, so they have to sign it. And if anyone pushes back on them, then we know that that's not the type of person that we want in that house. Yeah. A lot of housemates have actually said, we love renting through J&G because of the house rules. Because we know that we're kind of protected, that someone's got our back.
And they've got a mediator.
And they've got a mediator in between.
Love it. What are the 3 no-nos? Because your house rules, you've got breaches all the way through them, but if something serious happens in the house, then it's outside of the house rules, and it's like immediate eviction, like you said. So what are the big no-nos that we can do?
Violence, aggression. That's huge. Yep. That's absolutely no. Drugs, absolutely no.
I think there's only 2, isn't it?
I think it's only 2.
If you're violent to anybody else or aggressive and you're taking drugs, you're out the house straight away. Yeah.
Everything else, if we feel that somebody's one of the house rules is to not excessively drink. If they're starting to excessively drink, even though if they're not causing any drama, that would be a breach. We'd need to keep an eye on their behaviour, because we know that can spiral. So we keep an eye. There's all the different levels and different breach terms that we have, but we try and do it to support them, as well as making sure the investors' investment is protected and the rest of the housemates are protected.
What happens when there's an argument in the house or a clash in the house between 2 personalities?
So we tend to get the property managers involved. They become a bit of a mediator, understand where everyone's coming from. We've also just recently launched a new section of the business called housemate support, so that people can reach out. So any housemate can reach out to housemate support, let them know of any issues that are going on. A lot of the time, people just want to be heard. They want to have their say. The property managers can either get involved, or housemate support can deal with it on their side. And all it means is we can try and just rectify a situation. You know, one person might have had a bad day, the other person.
We all have
bad days. And if you're living under one roof and you've been stressed out, someone's left the dishes in the sink, and it ends up being a big situation over a small little thing, it can kind of be de-escalated quite quickly as long as we listen to them and have patience.
And the Housemate Support Project was an initiative of one of our employees, Kayla, who's been with us from the start. And we encourage our team to challenge us, to say we can do things better. And I believe Kayla has done that. She's came and said, you know what, I think if we set up this separate section so that the property managers aren't getting pulled into arguments in the houses, someone in the office can sit there and mediate. And she's not a trained psychologist or anything like that, but she is really good at listening to people and connecting to people and showing empathy to people. That's
it. And she's even, we're starting relationships with St. Vincent de Paul, the Happiness Corps. So the Happiness Corps, Kayla's been working with, so that we can actually provide tools to our housemates to help them navigate any situations, whether it's a mental well-being situation, whether it's one of how do I deal with a housemate that just won't listen to me, or how should I introduce myself to a housemate because I'm an introvert and I don't really like social engagement. Whatever it might be, we kind of we want to give the housemates tools. If we do that, we're not only having people who are lasting longer in properties, so from an investment perspective, that is awesome, but we're giving people a platform to really grow. And that's awesome. So
I love the housemate support. It's really, really it's coming on leaps and bounds, and I can really see the benefit of everything that the team are doing in that space as well. Well, I mean, I'm also really privileged to be working with for Life, and there could be something that we do with Adam and the team there as well, because, you know, can we does like mental health and resilience and low self-esteem, can people ever not hear enough of how to get out of that? I don't think they can. So, you know, the more people we work with in that space, the more we try to get that into our business to help the tenants and the investors and our actual team as well. We're doing wellness events for the team. Right now we're in the middle of a Miracle Morning session. If you haven't read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, check it out. It's an incredible book, and the team are loving it. Let's talk about the properties themselves and property management, because we're running out of time. I could talk to you all day about this stuff.
We do.
We do. We actually finish work and go home and we talk about stuff again. Do I need to furnish my property?
Yes. So the product that we are currently bringing to the market, and what our housemates know and love, is the fact that it's fully furnished. They can literally turn up with a suitcase and their toothbrush, and they've got everything in there. So there has been talk about having potentially some rooms unfurnished if people have their own furniture, but we just recommend that this style of living are for people who are single or couples. They haven't had a whole house. They haven't got furniture. They haven't got a truck or storage with their furniture in it. So we make it as easy as possible. It's almost like long-term Airbnb, you know? Like you get in there, you've got everything you need. You can settle without having that additional expense of more furniture, more equipment needed. This is an affordable area in the market, so we're trying to make it affordable by giving them what they need,
and convenient.
Like
if you just want somewhere to live for 12 months, you don't want to be lugging your gear all over the place. Plus the standard that yourself and the team finish these properties to, with the furniture and the colours and the finishes, is like better than half of the stuff that these people are going to bring anyway. So they actually get to live in like this really cool funky room. Once the property is either renovated or construction complete and handed over from the builder, how long will it take to fill all of my rooms in a 6-bedroom house, for instance?
So we know that house is coming. So sometimes we have housemates already lined up to move in. So anything between 1 to 4 weeks, but we try and aim within 1 or 2 weeks. The last few properties that we've had, we filled them before they've even gone to the market. We've got one at the moment. They're all going, when's it going to be finished? When's it going to be finished? So we that's the aim within a couple of weeks, really, but probably allow up to 4. Sometimes there's just one room that just takes that little bit longer to get through, but generally we've got it covered before it goes live.
Yeah. And if you're so confident in this product, do you offer a rental guarantee?
Yeah, we've actually just implemented this one. So I think a lot of people, and it's because of this unknown of this type of concept. Who would live there? Like, is it even possible? And we've then said to investors, look, if we don't fill the room within the house within 4 weeks, any of those empty rooms we will credit. Like, we're going to pay for from that beginning time of when it went live until them rooms are filled.
So at the end of 4 weeks, if I've got 2 rooms left vacant, then you'll backdate the rent for them 2 rooms and pay that rent until you fill them rooms.
It. Absolutely.
Incredible. What about inspections? How often do you do inspections in the property?
So we do inspections every quarter, but every time somebody goes, vacates a room, we do an exit report. So there's always reports on the rooms, entry and exit reports on the rooms.
Photographic?
Oh yeah,
yep.
Full report, so photos and descriptions, and we also have cleaners that go in fortnightly. So they are our eyes and ears, and they report back to us if they see anything, whether it could be a maintenance issue that we could nip in the bud before. If a housemate hasn't reported it, we can nip it in the bud earlier, or if they think that there's something going on in the house that we need to check out. So I'd like to say it's always under inspection, but as an actual detailed inspection report, it's every quarter.
Cool. And then it's cleaners. How often do you send cleaners through?
So it's every fortnight. In some of the properties that don't have shared bathrooms, we can minimise that to monthly, depending on the size of the house and the requirements.
And how often do you review room rates?
Quite frequently at the moment. So we just follow the market. We follow the market. If the market's increasing, we increase. We know that investors, if their repayments are increasing, they need to make that up somewhere. So every time someone comes to renew their rent, we will look at, does this require a room rate increase?
Cool. Awesome. How many properties will my property manager oversee?
Maximum 25 properties.
25 properties. Okay,
yeah.
So there's some property managers out there that have 100 to 150 properties on their rent roll.
Yes.
Why do you only have 25?
Because we've got lots of little properties within that one property. So because of the multiple people, it's a harder gig. And honestly, hats off to the property managers in our team. I think it's worth noting that we recruit them as people managers and turn them into property managers because of how hard it is to, deal with just people on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going off on a tangent. What was the question?
How many properties will my property manager oversee?
So because they might have almost 6 rentals in one property, that's 25 times 6. Yeah. So they've got their hands full.
Yeah. So they're managing between 120 and 150 rooms, which is the equivalent to a normal property managing 100 to 150 properties. Yeah. But the room rate on our rooms are actually less than every 4-bedroom house out there. For instance, our rooms are $250, $300, and a 4-bedroom I'll rent out for $450. Yeah.
Oh, plus now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're killing it now in Western Australia, aren't we? What if my tenant doesn't pay rent?
So we take a 4-week bond off all of the housemates. So if we keep part of the property manager's daily task is to make sure that the arrears are kept on top of. So if someone's sliding, we can nip it in the bud quite quickly. If it doesn't look like they're going to pay, again, we've got the eviction terms if we need to use them. But we do first reach out. We ask them, what's going on? Why is it that you're not able to pay? We try and have that open communication and resolve it first. But we do have a bond just in case if we need to use that and move somebody on if they can't afford it, if they've changed their circumstances.
Yeah, and housemate support also helps out with people that are struggling financially too.
Yes, and we've got people we can send them to, even if they're low on cash, they can go to the food bank even. There's lots of different tools that we can now give housemates to help support them so that they can prioritise their rental payments and then keep up their lifestyle using other supports and means.
Yeah. And if the tenant doesn't pay rent, you've still got 4 or 5 other tenants in that property that are all paying rent anyway. So the benefit of this style of accommodation is once you've filled all of your rooms, if one person moves out or one person can't pay their rent, you've still got other people paying your rent. So this is like a really risk mitigated strategy where you're supplying accommodation to a need in the market which is so big the government can't fix it, and other investors are now having to step in to help them out. We're providing 5 or 6 styles of accommodation in one property, which means you've got multiple streams of income from one property, and it just like removes a lot of the risk.
And this worked really well in COVID, didn't it?
Yeah.
We panicked a little bit. COVID hit. We didn't know where everything was going to go, but we were like, oh my God, again, it's a solid concept, because if one person in that house had to be stepped down from work, everyone else was paying. We didn't get a whole house that was empty. A whole house that couldn't pay. We'd be unlucky if we got 2 people who weren't able to pay. So it definitely it was kind of tested it out through the COVID terms.
Yeah, I mean, during COVID, the only empty rooms we had really were around universities, weren't there? When students had to leave, which again is why our sister company, the HMO Property Group, does not source properties too close to universities, because there's already an oversupply of properties there. Unless it's like a real premium, high-end, stands out from everything else in that property, in that suburb, then it's probably not an area that we'd look at, because students come and go, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
So the few that we do have close to universities, they're staged and styled to our standard, and we're attracting it, not students,
like
workers,
teachers.
Yeah.
So it could be in the same catchment, but we're trying in for the teacher rather than the student.
This is the big one, and this is the one that a lot of people just come in with straight away. What's your property management fee?
Oh yeah, the property management fee is 15% plus GST.
Okay.
And there's some people go, oh God, that sounds really, really big, because I think a lot of people with standard rentals are 8 to 10%. Our 15% is an all-inclusive cost, so you're not going to get any additions for all your quarterly inspections, your end-of-year financial statements, or anything like that. It is one covered cost. But what I will say is the value of that 15% for the work that's done is incredible. Yep. It is incredible. And it's 15% on a hell of a lot more money than 8% on, a quarter of what you could be getting as a standard rental.
Yes, exactly. So we can put a 4x2 in one area and rent out for $500 a week, and you get a property manager to manage it for 8 to 10%, for instance. Or you can put a HMO in exactly the same street on the block next door that rents out for $1,500 a week, but your property manager is charging 15%. I know which one I'd rather do. Because, like you said, there's a lot more moving parts with the HMO. You've got multiple tenants, multiple things. There's dispute resolutions, happiness support.
And also, not just that, but the advertising structure of it. So we attract the tenants because we're going on the correct platforms, which is a lot more work than posting one ad up on a real estate platform. So we have to use multiple platforms to get the good inquiries through. So there's a lot of work around it as well.
Who pays the bills in a HMO?
The investors pay the bills.
Okay.
So the investors, the housemates pay a weekly fee, and that weekly fee covers up to $20 or $20 to $25, depending on the spec of the house, per week of utilities. If an investor gets a huge billing, we'll kind of divide it up, take $25 off for each person, and we split the bill. The only time we do that is when we know someone's abusing the system. So, they've put the aircon on at 9 o'clock in the morning and have gone to work all day because they think it's a hotel. If that's happening, it doesn't happen frequently because other people in the house will tell on them. They're like, I'm not paying for him. Yeah. I'm not paying for him to leave that on. So only really happens once. We'll hit them with a bigger bill and say, this is because you've abused it. Otherwise, you shouldn't really have any excessive bills if it's not been abused. Cool.
So if a tenant pays $250 a week, $20 to $25 of that is allocated towards rent. So if you've got a 6-bedroom house and you're making $25 per tenant, then you're getting a fair chunk of money every single week going towards your electric bill and your gas bill. Yeah. And the new bills that we're doing as well, They're going to be 80% off the grid anyway, because they're going to have solar panels and batteries, no gas line running into them, so that your power bills and your utility bills should be very low and should be running off grid. And
we're doing a lot through our housemate support to educate people on sustainability and to look after the environment. So not burn through your utilities. So try and just make them a bit more responsible as well.
What about household tasks like taking out rubbish, mowing the lawn, keeping the common areas clean?
Yeah. So we've got cleaners and we've got gardeners. So as general maintenance, we'll send that through. However, we do expect all housemates to keep on top of the cleanliness of the house, put the bins out, etc. We have, when we set up the properties, we put bin rosters on the fridges. So each room, room 1 will do week 1, room 2 will do week 2, etc. I'll put the bins out. This is really important because then if people go away, the note goes to the next room and it's not like, hands up, no one was doing it. Cleanliness, we just say you all have to clean. If we have one troublesome house and nobody is wanting to do any of the cleaning work, we'll set a cleaning roster as well. We've only had to do that a handful of times. Generally, people are adults. We can have a conversation with them, tell them to keep on top of stuff.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. What happens when things get damaged or broken?
So if it's in someone's bedroom, obviously the housemate of whose bedroom it is, it will be liable for that. If it's in the common areas, it's a tricky one. So something might happen. If nobody puts their hand up for it, the bill could either be split between everyone if we feel it's been malicious. If it's been an accident, we'll have a chat with the investor. 9 times out of 10 again, another housemate will report it. Bob, room 2, broke the plant pot, whatever it might be.
Because no one else wants to be held accountable for somebody else's issues, do they?
No. So it's kind of good in a way. You've got little allies within a house as well. They've got really good rapport with the property managers and they're quite open and communicative.
Beautiful, beautiful. Last but not least, this is, again, everybody's second favourite question behind how much are your property management fees. What do you do about parking?
Yeah. Parking isn't actually as much of an issue as we thought it was going to be. And, there's some suburbs that certainly surprise us. Obviously, the ones nearer the train lines, we don't have as much issues with. But a lot of the time, people you don't really get 6 people in the house that all have a car. But we do allocate the garage, so somebody can pay extra for a side in the garage. So you've got 2 spots in the garage. If there's paving, if the front we flattened, we can allocate bays for the rooms. So we just keep an eye on it from that perspective. Bays allocated if it's required, but 2 housemates in every house tend to pay for the garage anyway.
Beautiful. Joanna, thank you very much for coming on the HMO Property Show, and we're definitely going to do this again because, like I say, we talk about this all day, everywhere.
Absolutely.
I want to leave you this week with a quote that I got from a guy that I've been following in the UK called Mr. Rob Moore. And he says, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you tune in the same time next week so you stay up to date with all the cash flow positive property updates.